Hi there, everybody. It is Q&A Wednesday, and it's also Halloween. Happy Halloween! So I decided to dress up today, and it's not what I originally anticipated. So I know you can't see it because, I'm sitting, but I'm actually like the blonde Lara Croft Tomb Raider. So I've wanted to do that for a while, but I'm never quite lean enough on a Halloween. I'm usually in grow season, and since I'm not, I decided let's have the muscles. I can still make it work. And of course, the joke today is put your guns away. So I thought that was pretty funny. But I know that it's still just Halloween. It's not quite November yet. But one of the biggest issues that most of my clients have this time of year is how to stay on target and on track with their health goals throughout the holidays, because of course, as you listen to everybody, this is the time of year that everybody gains weight, and that it's so difficult because of course it's all of the fun foods and the family and the traditions, which I totally understand and agree with. But of course, moderation in everything. There's a way to get through it without going crazy. And of course, I always teach my clients, let me help you get through the holidays, without gaining those 10 pounds versus let's wait till after the holidays. Hello, Marianne. To get started, which drives me crazy. What is it that happens January 1st that changes everything, right? What was different November 5th that you couldn't, what couldn't you do back then that now you're going to do in January, versus why you can still enjoy the holidays. We're going to talk about how to do that. It's just about paying attention and being prepared, which of course, I know you hate hearing that, but that really is what it's about. It's about being prepared and knowing what to do and what not to do, making choices in advance, right? So that when you get there, you're not tempted by the goodies and the things that are there, because honestly, and we'll talk about the quality of your splurges, but my theory is that if I have to work it off, it better be the most amazing thing I've ever eaten in my whole life, because I know how many hours of cardio it's probably going to take care of, that big piece of pumpkin pie. So I love Thanksgiving, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to eat what I want on Thanksgiving, but I plan for it and I work around it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Again, I know that it's the time of year that we tend to splurge a little bit, and it's really easy to overdo it very quickly unless you've actually put some things into place. So again, I'm not saying I eat whatever I want on Thanksgiving, guys. I got my system down. I've been doing it for several years, and I don't make healthier versions of anything on Thanksgiving. I make full strength. I want the stuffing. I want the pie. I usually carb coma way before I can actually eat everything that I want to. But I'm totally prepared for it. And I know what I'm going to do in order to, minimize the damage that I'm going to do with what I'm going to eat for that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like I said, I know it's not quite November, but it really is time to think about it. Christmas is around the corner. Don't even tell me how many shopping days there are till Christmas. I don't really want to hear it right now. Got a lot going on between now and then. But yeah, we might as well be prepared. And the sooner that you can make these choices and kind of look ahead as to what your schedule is going to be and how many parties you've been invited to. And honestly, some of the worst ones are, just the garbage that gets brought to work, and not even good stuff. Not even the tastiest option, just junk that people bring from the grocery store. And it doesn't even taste good, but it's sitting there staring at you. More than once, I've actually had clients text me or call me and just say, oh my word, the break room is just full of all this. Send me pictures of what's in there. And my response is, honey, run away now. Like I said, it's not that you shouldn't indulge, but we don't want to eat everything. We don't want to come out the end of December thinking, wow, I really messed up. So that's kind of our goal, to stay away from that. So really, versus talking about, how much weight and blah, 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 blah. Let's just talk about how to navigate the holidays in order to be successful with staying with your goals. Now, I'm going to tell you that December's probably not your best time to go on a diet. You know how I feel about diets anyway. It's probably not your best idea to put together a really intense weight loss program, or, I personally would never do a competition that involved dieting down the entire month of December, because I really enjoy that time of year with my family and my friends, and going to a party here and there and social. So versus the rest of the year, I don't tend to really bake a lot or do a lot like that. But over the holidays, I tell people I become Betty Crocker. Something about hitting the kitchen, baking, it just makes me calm and makes me feel good. And of course, I give most of it away, but it's a good smell for a while anyway in my house. But yeah, that's kind of how I roll. So my biggest tip to you is just plan ahead. Plan ahead. Most of us kind of know, are you going to have a work party? Are you going to have a church party? Are you going to throw a party? Figure out which things you're going to attend, right? And maybe you already know that, you know, Grandma Jane makes the most amazing pie and you don't want to miss that Christmas Eve. And you'd rather do that than go to, you know, this other party where you're going to be kind of forced into, you know, drinking because you can't stand half your coworkers. I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? You make sure that you know what you're going to do and plan which ones you're going to splurge at and which ones you're not. You know, if you have to make an appearance and you don't really want to be there and you don't really want to eat the food there, because I've been to a Christmas party like that where it wasn't worth it. That was supposed to be my cheat night and I ended up ordering a pizza after the party. Yeah, sometimes you just got to think about better choices there. But figure out which ones that are worth it, and don't pick all of them. Obviously you're going to get derailed. You know, pick a couple of them. And then of course, if it's at your house, which, you know, we like to throw a holiday party at our house, and it usually involves alcohol. So be smart about that. Whatever it is that you have at the party, make sure that by the time the party's done, it's gone so that you're not eating on that, you know, for days and days and days. Same thing with leftovers after Thanksgiving and things like that. We usually send things home with as many people as possible, and get rid of everything else because we don't want to eat it. We eat it that day. We don't want to eat on it for the rest of the season. When you are going to a party or when you're going to, if it's Thanksgiving or if it's Christmas dinner at somebody's house, don't skip your meals. What people tend to do is they think, well, I'm just going to trade off. I'm not going to eat those calories this morning so that I can have them this evening. Well, what ends up happening is that you're so hungry and you're starving that you actually end up eating more calories at that party than you would have if you were eating the rest of the day. Not to mention, you've already completely stunted your metabolism for the day because you're not eating anything. So your body just assumes you're not going to, and your metabolism drops. And then all of a sudden you're putting, you know, unhealthy foods and sugars and processed food on top of that. That becomes a problem. Versus if you've been eating your regular food all day long, then by the time you get to that meal or that party, you're actually going to be less hungry. You're going to eat less, and do, I call it less damage as you're there because you're not as hungry, you're not ravenous. We tend to overeat. That's actually why I kind of try to get my clients to eat 5 to 6 times a day. It's not because eating 3 times a day isn't appropriate. It totally is. But what ends up happening is most people in between, if they do get hungry, even if it's a little bit of like cravings and mental hunger, they tend to, if they're already eating their regular meals, they realize they're not really hungry. They're hungry, not hungry. And it makes it easier to not binge or eat things that they know that they really don't want to eat. Right? So again, having those meals throughout the day will kind of prevent you from overeating when you do have an activity to go to. Don't weigh yourself the day after. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I have had clients call me bawling the next day because they're like, what did I just do? I just gained 8 pounds. First of all, you can't gain out 8 pounds overnight. You just can't. However, when you eat carbs, guys, especially if you haven't been eating a lot of carbs, your body retains water. Those carbs absorb excess water and you actually do way more. Now, that's not fat. You can't gain 8 pounds of fat overnight. However, a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. So whenever I have a cheat meal or a cheat day or the day after Thanksgiving, I do not weigh myself because I know that that next day I'm going to be up at least 8 pounds. No joke. And it takes about a week for that to go away. Hello, Tim. So keep that in mind that don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your head. Don't go crazy with, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I just ruined everything. If you planned on eating Thanksgiving and you planned on that splurge, enjoy it. That's, you made a plan, you're following it, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to. It's kind of the whole trust the process situation where, you can work it back off. Right? Now you can't do that weekly over the holidays. That's gonna be really hard to work that off. But you can work that back off just by, doing some pre and post planning with that. So that being said, if you know that you're gonna have a party or you're gonna eat more for the holidays, do some pre and post exercise to kind of, I call it damage control, right? So that you're already kind of getting your metabolism up and preparing it for what you're going to do. Plus, it'll make you feel better. Like seriously, like mentally, it's just going to make you feel better. I have a plan on the holidays. Let me tell you how my Thanksgiving goes down because I do a full-on real Thanksgiving with all the bells and whistles. I usually hold it at my house because I don't like to travel for the holidays. And for some odd reason, I like to host. Maybe it's a control thing. I don't know. But what I do is I get up first thing in the morning and I do, 30 to 45 minutes of cardio because I know I'm going to eat like a crazy person during the day. Then I actually get the turkey in the oven because I know how long that's going to take. And then after that, I actually have a key to some gym, right? Because I have memberships at more than one gym at this point in my life, and at least one of them is 24 hours with key access. So I go to the gym and I do just a really decent workout, because again, why not? I know I'm going to eat all that excess food. The same thing, I like to actually work out the day after as well, because I like to take those carbs and actually put them to good use. Like usually a good leg day, the day after Thanksgiving is a good option. But again, I kind of not really circumvent what's going to happen from the excess calories and the excess foods that I'm eating, but it does make me feel better about what I'm doing and that I'm not getting too far off track. And because I'm not doing that the whole season, I'm not going to retain a bunch of fat. Now, am I going to feel yucky the next day? Probably, but there's benefits to that as well. If you feel sick, if you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't eat like this normally, and this is just, wow, I feel gross, you're not going to do it again for a while. So there are benefits to cheat meals, above and beyond just the physiology of it, where you're kind of boosting your metabolism. So we talked about don't go to dinners and parties starving. Your best bet, especially if you are not choosing to use that as a splurge, make sure you get your meals in or get a really good snack in beforehand. Drink lots of water, especially if you plan on having one or two drinks at the party. You don't want that to just hit your system immediately as sugar, which is probably going to anyway, but do some prevention there so that, you don't get tempted by things. Because here's the thing. I mean, haven't you ever walked into a party and you're like, it just smells good and it looks good. And then you start, taking some of everything because it just looks good. And it just really isn't, because it's all store-bought garbage. Yeah, been there. And then you wonder why you were there, because it wasn't fun anyway. Make it worth it. Like seriously, one of the best ideas that I heard was that just don't eat anything processed. If you're going to have goodies or baked goods, make sure they're homemade. Make them yourself, which actually I think is a great idea anyway, because it takes longer. If you're going to make them, it's not convenient and easily accessible. You actually have to bake something, which again, in my case, I like to bake, so sometimes that can become a problem, but at least you're going to be getting a little bit better, healthier options, less additives and preservatives, because your body doesn't like those things. You guys understand that when you eat additives and preservatives, your body stores them as toxins in your body fat. So it's not necessarily a healthy thing. That's what your body does with things that it wants to keep from being toxic in your system. My theory really is that if I have to work it off, it has to be the best thing I've ever had in my whole life. That's why when I go out to eat, which isn't very often, I go to somewhere that's usually pretty expensive, because maybe I only go once every 6 weeks or once every other month or something like that. And dang, seriously, on Yelp, it better have some amazing reviews, or unless it's my own food, because I actually have a pretty decent cook when I get on a roll. Okay, so the next one is, you know what? Pick your alcohol wisely, guys. Don't go in and drink a bunch. It's kind of like, if you're drinking a bunch of margaritas or a bunch of like really frou-frou drinks with a lot of sugar, that's not as good of an option. Pick something that's a little more tame, whether it's, some hard alcohol with maybe a little diet soda or maybe some tonic water, something to that effect. Obviously wine's a little bit better than some other things, but some of those, mudslides and things with a lot of sugar in it are probably not your best bet, because you're kind of compounding the problem of not just the alcohol. Now, alcohol does not make you fat, but it does prevent you from burning fat for up to 72 hours. So again, it kind of is, if you're eating, plus then you make not so great choices when you're a little tipsy, right? So if you're eating a bunch of sugar-filled foods, processed foods, and you're drinking alcohol on top of that, you're really doing some major backpedaling on your goals, right? So kind of be smart about what you are drinking. And if you are drinking, make sure you're getting plenty of water in between so your body can help flush that a little bit faster. Take your time when you do eat. If, through Thanksgiving or whatever meals or parties you're at, make sure you take your time, chew slowly, swallow your food. I know it's hard to do when you're talking and you're a little distracted, but the problem is your body takes a good 20 minutes to actually signal to your brain that it's full. So if you are scarfing things down, that's how you get that overly full feeling. Again, Thanksgiving, I know we all hit that. Because we eat so fast, we're eating so much of it that our body can't actually, the triggers for the hormones that tell us, hey, you are full, don't get hit in time. So by the time you realize you're full, you're ridiculously full, right? So again, eat slowly, you'll eat less, and your body will have the ability to tell you that you are satiated. We talked about make homemade versus processed. The other things, I know sometimes we have those issues around the holidays. We don't want to offend friends or family members. Maybe they just don't, maybe they don't make the best food, or maybe you just really, that's not your splurge. And we don't want to make them feel bad. So instead of saying things like I can't eat sugar, use a better phrase, I don't eat sugar. And you don't even have to include the right now, because I've done that before where it's like, well, I'm not eating sugar tonight, but I am tomorrow. You don't have to tell them that. But by saying I don't eat sugar, it doesn't sound like it's something that's been taken away from you. It's just more of a powerful phrase, right? Because it just sounds like, oh, I don't eat sugar. I've said that multiple times walking past the Girl Scout cookie table at the stores. I'm sorry, I don't eat sugar. And that works out fairly well. I've also been in a situation, had a girlfriend of mine where somebody gave her like the cutest little gift, and and they wanted her to eat it right there. And I said, in that situation, tell them that you're going to save it for a special moment, that it's so important to you that you want to have it at that special moment. And honestly, if it sounds good enough and it looks good enough, put it in your freezer and eat it on your cheat meal day, right? Versus, there's no reason, if I'm on contest prep, I don't care if I have a gun to my head, I'm not eating whatever sugar it is that's in front of me, because I have bigger goals than that. But I can save it for when it's important, and I haven't offended anybody. So that works out well. So, just realize that what you're doing, it's not that you can't have great stuff. I just don't want you to do it every day, because that does get you off target. Remember, it's a trade-off. I'm not going to eat it now because on Thanksgiving, I'm going to get to have whatever it is that I want. And here's the fun thing. I get more excited about planning for it, right? Like, I'm gonna have this pie, and we're gonna make this. And I love, the stuffing. Sometimes the anticipation is actually more fun than really eating it. And seriously, that's the fun part. But it is a trade-off. I would rather trade off, again, the times with my family and the traditions and the holiday and the feeling around me for, I don't need that cookie right now. I don't need to go to that party and have, the 30 desserts that are sitting there that honestly probably don't even look that good. I'm specifically saving what I want for that time, that splurge that I've planned for, because that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's how I stay where I want to go. I don't allow myself to just go all crazy. That's where the problems come in. It's when we consistently eat the sugar and the processed food, and our body responds to it, and it goes, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this, and you start storing it in body fat. So hopefully that helps. If you guys have any tips, please leave a message below, because sometimes you guys come up with the greatest stuff that I wouldn't have even thought of by myself. A lot of what I tell you is from experience and working for several years, multiple years with clients, and trying to help people get through the holidays sane and without those extra 8 to 10 pounds. But every once in a while somebody pops up and goes, well, have you thought about this? It's a great one. Also, if you have any questions, I get my best ideas from you guys. Please leave a message below, or you can message me directly. Because again, half the stuff I talk about is because of somebody saying, hey, what about this? And of course, I totally appreciate that. So, not going to be here on Saturday. So of course, again, no meals with Melissa this Saturday. It is coming back. We were at Spokane, Washington Night of Champions this last weekend. My clients did amazing. I'm so proud of them. They just did awesome. We will be in Boise, Idaho this weekend for the Idaho Cup, and then the following weekend for the Northwest Championships in Shelton, Washington. So going to be a little busy for the next couple of weeks, but we will return with Meals with Melissa. I have a really great pumpkin bread recipe that's low carb. So until then, have an incredible day, guys. Happy Halloween, and stay safe, okay? Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.